crisis is entirely manufactured by Russia. It is, of course, connected to the Russian invasion of Ukraine, but it is quite separate from the dispute over the transit of gas between Russia and Ukraine. This was a crisis manufactured from the beginning by Russia by inventing a supposed figure of 800 million US dollars, which supposedly Moldova owed Russia in unpaid gas bill. The biggest casualty is the small region of Transnistria, an enclave manufactured and encouraged by the Russians over the last almost 3 decades. As part of an attempt to control Moldova and put the country in a Russian sphere of influence. Crisis over the gas transit through Ukraine has complicated and will make it very difficult for the Russians to deliver to Moldova, but it's instructive to notice that the Russians decided to manufacture a quite separate dispute, allegedly over unpaid debts, in order to squeeze Moldova separately from its own confrontation with Ukraine. But the bottom line from the Russian perspective is to create an energy crisis, which then morphs into a political one. So the intent here may not necessarily be another Russian offensive in the direction of Moldova, although there's little doubt that had the Russians had that possibility, they would have undertaken it. I think the objective here is to create a state of permanent friction, a state of permanent tensions, and the prelude to future Russian military interventions in the region. It is to remind everyone that despite President Maya Sandu's attempt to bring her poor and rather vulnerable country into the Western orbit in terms of the European Union in particular, is unlikely to succeed, and that ultimately the country is dependent on Russia. There has been a relentless effort to undermine the government of Moldova for months. There's no question that the Moldovan government wants to help bail out the separatists at this moment. After all, the Moldovan government's official position is that the separatists are Moldovan citizens and that their territory is an integral part of Moldova itself. So there's no question that the government would want to help. The question is whether the separatists will want to accept the help and whether this could be a prelude to a much bigger tussle instead of being the beginning of a potential cooperative relationship. There's no question in my mind that Moscow now is banking on the possibility that the crisis would merely accentuate the separatist movement inside Moldova.